Hello everyone, this is Fu, and I'm going to show you some advanced flying mechanics, as well as how to interact with ship and weapon interfaces within the game Star Citizen. In a previous video, I showed an example of how to get things started in the 2.2 pre-alpha build of the persistent universe in Star Citizen. It was made to be as bare bones as possible to get new players up and running within the game so that they could enjoy their free flight week. It looks like the video helped out a lot of people, and I'm elated to hear the positive feedback. But one thing that was mentioned quite often was the demand for more advanced flying techniques. That's what this video is really designed to show you. Over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to go over a number of topics including different flying modes, the importance of vector, evasive maneuvering tips, throttle management, coupled versus decoupled mode, and how and when to use boost or afterburner. Along with that, we'll be taking a look at ship interfaces for things like how to change your PiP targeting mode, what G-safe is, how to properly use countermeasures, handling weapons groups, overheating, and shield and power management. So let's recap with some simple flying controls. I'll make this quick. To lift up vertically, press and hold R. I'm going up. To go down vertically, you press and hold F. So R up, F down. Kind of makes sense on the keyboard there. If you want to strafe left, you're going to press and hold Q. Strafing's really important, so get used to these. And then E is going to be your strafe right. Once we get going here. There we go, strafe and right. Alright, if you want to roll left and right, you're going to use A and D respectively. A, rolling left, and then D, rolling right. Now your throttle is managed by W and S, so as you hold W, your throttle will go up. You can see I'm at 87% right now. Going 192 meters per second. Now I'm at 100%, which should be 220 meters per second. Yep. And then if you hold S, you'll turn the throttle down. Now you can maximize W and S by double tapping either one of them. So I can go instantly to 100% or instantly to 0%. The other thing that you can do is use spacebar to space brake. This allows you to keep your throttle position where it's at. You'll see my throttle's at 88, but if I hold space, I start slowing down even though my throttle is still there. Then when I let go of space, it goes right back to that 88. Alright, so let's get into the more advanced stuff here. Now, when you're flying, there are two different default modes. If you are a mouse and keyboard user, you will be defaulted to interactive mode. What this is it allows a dead zone of your crosshair or cursor before your ship begins to pitch or yaw. So as you can see, my ship is not turning yet. Now that I'm reaching the boundary, I should turn. But once I go far enough, you'll notice that the ship does start turning. Now this allows you a little bit of extra control for your gimbaled weapons, because as you can see, I can fire wherever that cursor is while my ship maintains its current orientation. The other mode, which I will switch over to by pressing left control and C, is relative mode. Now this is the default mode for joystick users. This mode allows direct control over the ship because there is no dead zone. So as you can see, as I turn even the slightest bit, the ship will go to that direction I'm turning. Now, as a default with a mouse and keyboard user, the mouse cursor icon will actually be pushed back towards the middle of the screen. Whichever mode you decide you want to fly in is based on your own preference. As a mouse and keyboard user, I generally use the interactive mode. It just gives me a little bit of extra freedom and control. And to me, it just feels a little bit more natural. But remember that each ship has its own unique feel to it, so you may actually prefer different flying modes based on different ships that you're in. It's up to you to go ahead and try them out and figure out what works best for you. Now let's go over the vector icon. The vector icon is easily overlooked by most people, but arguably the most important piece of information that the HUD can give you. It's that little rounded square / circle thing with the upwards arrow pointing out of it that's right in the middle of my screen right now. Now what it does is it indicates your ship's current vector, or in simple terms, it shows you which direction your ship is physically heading. As you change direction, it takes time for the thrusters in your ship to counteract your momentum. So this icon is very important to make sure you're going where you want to go. To give you an example, I'll turn here, and you can see that the vector icon is out to the left now because that's the direction my ship is heading. And now that the thrusters have finally adjusted, it's back in the middle. And one thing I can try and do here, we'll see if I'm able to do this, is with some more advanced flying mechanics, if I start strafing, I can actually aim into the gap of this asteroid here. So that even though I am facing the asteroid, I'm actually flying into the gap of it, and I know that I'm doing it safely because of that vector icon. There we go. So keeping an eye on the vector icon should become second nature to you as a pilot, especially in a game like Star Citizen, where your momentum carries for quite a while. The best places to practice this is to go fly through an asteroid field, or to just go through the race course. And try doing some more advanced stuff as you get used to it, like practicing your strafing to dodge certain objects. One more technique that you can use that involves strafing is actually the Corkscrew Pattern. Now this is really good for flying away from your enemies who are trying to hit you, but it can also be really good on an approaching run as well. To do this, you simply hold the strafe key and the opposite roll key at the same time. So if I were to hold Q as in my strafe left and then D as my roll right, that's actually going to put me into a corkscrew pattern. Now you can see my vector icon is changing constantly. That makes it very difficult to hit you. And then the same thing can be done for A and E, which is the opposite direction. Throttle management. I see far too many people maxing out their throttles 100% of the time that they are in combat. Now this isn't the worst thing to do, but it makes you a less dynamic pilot. And being less dynamic, it creates less opportunities for you as a pilot to win the battle. So you can see I'm maxed out right now. The better thing to do is once you're locked onto an opponent, like I am the scavenger here, is press the M key as in Mike. That will actually match your own speed to your opponent's speed. And that ship just killed itself. Let's try this again. This guy, press an M. I can match my speed to him, which is awesome. As you can see, my ship is automatically slowing itself. I'm not managing the throttle at all, but it's at 51 right now and it's dynamically changing, allowing me to keep a similar distance to my opponent. This will minimize your chance of jousting and simply flying by an opponent on accident to a point where you can't hit them anymore. One other thing that you can do to catch up to somebody quickly is if you're a distance away, like this guy who's 7,000 meters, even though he's heading towards me, if you double tap shift, it actually puts you into Afterburner. Now Afterburner uses fuel, which you can see on the left side here, and it goes down pretty quickly, so be careful with your use of it, but it's a good way to get a nice little speed boost to catch up to an opponent who's trying to get away. A little bit earlier, I was talking about the difference between interactive and relative mode. Most keyboard and mouse players will be defaulted to interactive mode, and the way this behaves actually changes the way that your PiP reticle is done. So you can see I have these two boxes, well it's a box and a circle, and I want to place those on the ship in order to hit the ship. So you can see as I'm hitting them, it gives me a marker icon. Now I can change the behavior of this to actually have these boxes come out from the ship I'm trying to hit. So let's press escape, let's go to options, and down here you have flight lead PiP reticle. Now if we go to yes, and then go back, we will now see those leads in front of the ship itself, as you can see here. So now I shoot at these leads, and that tells me where to go to hit them. Now, whichever one you like the most is completely up to you. Really, I like the default mode, which is turning the flight lead PiP reticle off, but everyone has their own preferences, so at least give it a try and see if it works for you. And one of the things you need to be aware of while in the game is your G-Save control. It's defaulted on, and most of the time you should leave it on. But I want you to notice something. If I press shift to boost, it turns off. So that means when I'm really trying to correct my course, say doing something like this, you can notice that you start blacking out, and you can actually pass out from doing it, which I'm about to do. Now if you black out completely, you lose complete control of your ship, meaning you can't do any maneuvering, and you can run right into an asteroid if you were facing towards it at the time you blacked out. The opposite of blacking out is redding out. Blacking out causes blood to go down to your feet. Redding out causes blood to go up into your brain.
Forward proximity alert.
What can you do to keep yourself from blacking or redding out? The answer is really quite simple. Just make sure that G-Safe icon down at the bottom right here of your HUD is turned on. As long as that is on, the ship will be limited in its maneuverability to keep you from blacking out. If you are in some dire situation and you have to pull off some sick moves to get away, one of the things that you can do to counteract the blacking or redding out effect is to simply go the direction opposite of what is causing the effect. Say for instance that you want to stop a blackout from occurring. Well, blackouts are caused by blood flow going to your feet. So let's try and recreate that by simply turning sharply up and then trying to stop that by vertically going up. I'm starting to black out. If I hold F now to go back down, I will actually stop that from happening. Now the opposite is true for redout. So let's talk about countermeasures for a little bit. As you can see on the right side of my HUD, I have flares selected right now, and right above them is chaff. Now they have two different purposes. Flares are meant to mislead missiles coming towards you. If I deploy one, they look like this. Now they're made to be a more attractive signal than you are. If you want to really maximize the effect of them, you want to deploy a flare and then change your ship's current direction. If it's just heading forward and a missile is coming straight towards you, it could still have the possibility of locking onto you. But if you change direction with the flares, it's much easier to confuse the lock-on system of the missile. Now the other thing you'll want to utilize correctly is chaff, which I will show you as I'm being attacked. If I deploy chaff, what it does is it creates an electric signature that messes up the target's ability to lock onto you. Now you want to use these before missiles are deployed, especially in situations where you want them to lose you as a target. Sometimes, if utilized correctly, chaff can actually make the opponent lose its lock-on on you, which is really good to have if you're really trying to get away. So let's interact with our systems more directly. If I press the F2 key, I can press the home key, and it actually brings up a mouse cursor, so we can directly interface with our HUD. You see we have three different firing groups here. Anything that is turned on, if I move my mouse away here, you can see I have two cannons here, I have two cannons here. Now these are my Omnisky lasers, these are my Badger repeaters. So if I press and hold my first mouse button, I will be able to fire my Omnisky lasers, and if I press and hold my second mouse button, which is right click, I will be firing my Badger repeaters. Now I can also turn on all of the firing groups here for group number 3. 3 is defaulted to your mouse's back button. So now if I let go of home, if I left click, there's my Omnisky cannons. If I right click, I got my Badger repeaters. And if I hold the back button, I got all of them at the same time. Now of course I could just hold left click and right click and get the same effect. But this allows you to customize how your weapons fire to whatever you prefer. So let's go over the power management here. Here's the really important thing. You can actually prioritize power to certain areas of the ship. Now G1 is going to be your weapon systems. This will actually allow you to fire for a little bit longer before overheating or running out of energy to feed your laser cannons. If we go to G2, we can prioritize our shields. Now this helps prioritize the shields, making them last a little bit longer, and it decreases the recharge time, meaning that they will recharge quicker. And then G3 will be your thrusters. This will manage your top speed, your acceleration, and your maneuverability. As a general rule of thumb, you want to keep that right around the middle though. Usually, that's the best bet for you. There are situations though where you need to prioritize the recharge of your shields. Just as an example, saying you're trying to be a distraction for another ship that's infiltrating some area. Now we can go to the power management system and we can prioritize our shields just to make sure we last a little bit longer. And if I really wanted to get detailed, I can actually move my shield priority to the front. As long as I stay facing the enemy, I'll be able to last longer that way. I've told you before, and I'm going to tell you again, if you really want to practice your maneuvering capabilities, go through the race course. I really can't stress enough about how helpful the race course can be. It's kind of a tough learning curve, but it's to your benefit. If you're able to take entire laps without crashing into any of the floating objects or any of the rings, then you will be perfectly fine. You've got it. You're ready to go. But that takes a lot of practice. This game is not easy to master. I'm still really far from it. But if you just keep at it, you'll get there. If you're looking to master combat roles, then play in the Arena Commander. There's a variation of different game types that you can choose from, but anything that has you battling other players is going to teach you the most. So what you want to do is obviously get in direct conflict with them and learn from your mistakes. Be critical of yourself. Figure out what you could have done. Try new methods and techniques constantly so that you're always one up on the game. If you don't try new things, you won't be able to figure out what works and what doesn't. Well, that about wraps things up for the video. Hopefully you found it informational. If you didn't learn anything, I apologize, but I will be continuing to put out more informational videos about Star Citizen as time goes on. So in the meantime, please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.